Oh, what time is it? 9:01. Hi, I'm Pugs Moran. It's the second of two streams that I do every day here on the Radio Misfits podcast platform, radiomisfits.com. We do one at noon. We call that High Noon. High Noon with Pugs Moran. That's me. And that's all about topics, current events, headlines, whatever it is that's happening in the world. We tend to cover it. It's a nice little cheat sheet for you. That's how I look at it. This is it's a service every day, Monday through Friday at noon, that I provide free of charge. Just to keep you all prepped up on everything that's happening in the day. All right, that's the first one. That's High Noon. That's Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Then we do this one. This one's called Pillow Talk, and it's myself, and it's James Parker. There's James. Sorry, he's back now. Ladies and gentlemen, James Parker, the Reese's to my peanut butter. Wait, I don't know what that is. Hey, James.
Yeah, I think I would be the peanut butter, and you'd be the chocolate.
You are way blacker than I am. I am so much whiter than you. There is no way that if there was a situation where one of us had to be chocolate and one of us had to be the not chocolate, you would always be the chocolate.
Well, are we talking melanin or just because I listen to hip hop? I know I'm.
No, we're talking that I'm 100% Irish and you've got some Spanish in you, or Mexican or whatever. Just doesn't get anywhere. And by the way, I'll also do the skin tone thing. Because I am fish belly white. You flip me over, I can't do this. Look at that. Well, actually, that's not too bad. You ever flip like a sunfish over on its, yeah, look at that. That's fish belly white. Look at that. Yeah, I like it. How are you, James?
I am well. I would like to start off by shouting out to one of our friends who had a big day today. She's been a guest on the show a few times. Lisa Marie Lumine was on the Dr. Phil show as a guest, continuing her reporting that she started on her show online concerning the 4 murders in the University of Idaho.
Now, what do you mean she started this online? Because honestly, James, I don't know what I'm doing with you. You're right. It was me, James, and Lisa Marie. It was a great little threesome show. And I am obsessed with this Idaho story. And I don't think anybody's talking about it. I don't think it's being covered enough. I don't think people are nearly as freaked out by what's happening. And I've got an update that I wanted to do tonight with you on the whole thing. But she has sort of positioned herself as somewhat of an expert on this, right? Just from whole cloth, too. It's not like she's an ABC7 reporter in Moscow. You know what I mean? She's just kind of done this herself, and now she's going on Dr. Phil as an expert.
Well, she's doing exactly what I'm doing here in the fact that we work for giant corporations. I worked for like CBS Radio, and then Sirius, and then iHeart, and she did the same thing, working for a few TV networks and then for iHeart for a long time. And for the first time, we've actually been divorced from the corporate world, and we can actually do these little passion projects that we thought about. So I'm like, hey, why don't I just do a stream 4 days a week with my old buddy Pugs? Or, why don't I just make a whole podcast full of dumb Florida stories? That'd be hilarious. And so one of her little pet projects is, she doesn't really have a title for it, but it's like Chasing the Macabre. So some of it's like horror film history, and some of it is
what is this, a podcast?
It's just a show she does online. It originates
stream like this.
Yes, it streams like this. It's only online.
We don't know about that. How come we've never promoted that? She's been on our show a number of times. How come?
We mentioned follow her on TikTok and Instagram is where I see it mostly. And it's got a nice little following. But she's smart, she's a pretty girl and with big boobs. So she puts her face in that little angle right there. And so she's just in the corner, and she has the content, whether it's the story from online or a picture of the people she's talking about, or sometimes a video to go with it. And so she kind of reports on what's in the background.
So did you see it today? I don't watch Dr. I don't even know where I would find it. I don't know, like where is that on? I don't have regular TV.
drphil.com. I mean,
I don't know. Is there a Dr. Phil app? I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't know how to consume Dr. Phil in 2022.
But
unless I was like getting an oil change, because it seems like whenever I'm getting an oil change, the waiting room always has like Dr. Phil on, and that's like the only place I see Dr. Phil. Getting an oil change, maybe some brake pads put on, some sort of work where I'm sitting in this like really sketchy waiting room of an oil change place. That's the last place I've seen Dr. Phil.
Well, see, now Dr. Phil is one of these people that looks like a cartoon and kind of sounds like a cartoon, sounds like a Foghorn Leghorn's cousin in the Looney Tunes. And he talks funny and he looks funny and he's got a dumb mustache. He's got a big bald head. And why don't you just shave your head if you're going to do the horseshoe hair or whatever? But I actually, every time I sit down and watch a Dr. Phil segment, I end up liking him. So I get it. I get why he's
Yeah, I guess.
he's so popular.
Whatever. Jeff Ballard says, a guy who grew up on the streets of South Chicago. Okay, see, that's the reason that I put it up. South Chicago. It's just South Side, dude. Just South. Nobody says South Chicago. That sounds like some suburb in Indiana. No, a guy who grew up on the streets of South Chicago and a guy who grew up in Tyler, Texas. Tell me who's more white. I'll tell you, the one with 100% white blood and genetics in him that go back centuries, not the one that's half Mexican.
Right, and there's an Indian in there.
Indian?
Probably,
Native?
yeah, probably about as recent as Elizabeth Warren, but great grandmother, she's definitely brown.
It's why you're handsome. It is. It's why you have sort of and it's why I'm so jacked up looking, because I've got like all of these ridiculous inbred pure one line. I need some black in me. Seriously, I need like some.
I don't have any black.
Asian.
I have like some Mexican and some whatever the Indians up there by Trigg County, Kentucky.
I just have people who are 100% are either there's like you find like someone who's a girl, she's 100% German. She's either like one of the most beautiful women you've ever seen, or like Groomhilda, like just awful.
That's so cold,
and,
dude.
And that's almost how it is with all ethnicities. Or I get
that's how it is with dogs too. Like the more purebred they are, either they are absolutely the most beautiful animal you've ever seen, or like, look at this freak.
Or like just an inbred retarded animal, which you then have to deal with. But whenever you get people that are all mixed up, I mean, I guess I should say that might just be me, because I am attracted to an exotic look. You know what I mean?
There's an evolutionary explanation for that. The more mixed up your genes are, the more resilient your offspring should be, because you've done a better job eliminating the recessive genes that necessarily come with selective breeding.
Yeah, I don't know.
No. Your point's well taken, because like, who are the biggest, hottest people on the planet right now? Like the number one bankable star is The Rock. And he's incredibly mixed. What is he, like, half white, half black, half Samoan, half something else?
Yeah. And then you got Jason Momoa. He's another one. He's like, half European Caucasian and then half, I think, Samoan or something like that. And then he's something like that. Do here's a fun one. James. Do you know who Olivia Rodrigo is?
Oh my God, I love her. Yeah, Deja Vu.
Okay, what do you think? What do you think she is?
Olivia Rodrigo, she's one of her dads or granddads or somewhere up there Spanish.
Nope.
Or no, Portuguese maybe.
Nope. Not even close. Nope. She is. Are you ready? Hold on.
Rodrigo is Portuguese, right?
Rodrigo is Spanish. It might also be Portuguese. I don't know. It is Spanish, but Spaniards aren't the only people with Spanish last names.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. Yeah.
Olivia Rodrigo is Filipino and Irish. And Filipino and Irish apparently makes Mexican, because I thought she was a Puerto Rican girl or a Mexican girl. I don't know.
I see. This is one of the cool things about America is, like, genetically speaking, there are farmers who breed specifically mixed up cows that aren't necessarily good for anything except for carrying that those genetics along. So your good dairy cows are like a selective breed, and then your really good steak cows are a selective breed, but the United States has accidentally made the most robust population of human beings, because not only do we have all the selective breeds that moved here, but we have like the Bruno Mars and The Rock and Patrick Mahomes and Olivia Rodrigo and
we're a melting pot, James.
No other country on planet Earth except Brazil has a mix like we do. We are the only two countries with the ethnic makeup.
Yeah, that's not entirely true, because the ethnic makeup of Australia and New Zealand is insane. It's like Asian, Aboriginal, and European. So that's very similar to us too. But your point is taken. Yes, we are certainly in a select class because of found land. We were found land, and it's funny that you bring that up. I just today, here's my Wikipedia hole that I fell in. I fell in a Wikipedia hole on the Louisiana Purchase, or at least it began at the Louisiana Purchase, and it
Isn't that
ended with
wild?
yeah. Oh, it began with the Louisiana Purchase, and it ended with something like Meriwether Lewis's great granddaughter, who was an actress. I don't know. It just like went all over. But I know it's weird, right? Well, Lewis and Clark, they were sent by Jefferson to explore the Louisiana Purchase. So I learned about Meriwether Lewis. Do you know that this is so bizarre? We think of Thomas Jefferson as like this learned, thoughtful, well considered man, right? But really a true Renaissance man of his era, correct?
Well, I mean, he was classically trained. He could read and write in both ancient Greek and Latin.
Spoke multiple language. I mean, he would be, if we were back in those days, we'd go, that Thomas Jefferson's a smart dude, right? You know what I mean? Like we would classify him that. Do you know what he prepared Meriwether Lewis for when he sent Lewis and Clark to explore the areas west of the Mississippi? Do you know what Jefferson's big fear was?
Dragons?
Dinosaurs.
Oh, okay, I knew it'd be something awesome.
Jefferson had a legit fear that they were going to cross the Mississippi and find dinosaurs, and he wanted them to try and capture one if they could and bring one back. Hey, on the off chance they got some woolly mammoths or something, can you bring one back? How crazy is that? I mean, that sounds like a fucking crazy thought to have at any time. Like, but maybe back then, did they not know they were like completely extinct, or did they still think that maybe there was a chance? And what did they know about dinosaurs back then?
Yeah, so they've always been digging up dinosaur bones ever since they started mining. Dinosaur bones are something you kind of that have kind of been a regular occurrence every once in a while. And that's where we think all these ancient cultures have mythical tales around some dragon, like something that didn't exist. Well, we all think that, hey, they probably found like a T-Rex skull, and we're like, what the hell could this have possibly been?
And then created a whole mythology behind it.
Yeah, and so whether you're in, ancient Gaul or China, they have mythologies of these giant creatures. So no, it's not totally unfounded. And the Indians had it, and they were telling the colonists about it. I'm sure that there's dinosaurs up in them there hills, and I can't blame them for thinking it. But boy, in hindsight, that's really stupid.
It seems really stupid for a guy that we thought was like such a forward thinker, and somebody who was so enlightened.
Well, look, if you're from like England, or if you're from, hell, just say even Massachusetts, and you come down south, and for the first time with your own eyes, without seeing this on National Geographic or Discovery Channel or your phone or anything, for the first time you lay eyes on an alligator, you would think you saw a dinosaur.
Yeah. Well, that's why I fell into this hole, because I was reading something about, don't even get me started, but it had to do with fauna and flora. And I found myself in the Louisiana. That was the whole like Jefferson really wanted them to find dinosaurs. Jefferson thought that on the other side of the Mississippi, like the Pacific Ocean was just like a couple of miles. Like he just thought like once you cross the Mississippi, it's just
how far can it be? How far can it be? Look how far we've gone already. This is like this is twice as wide as England. Yeah.
Think about it. They had no idea. There were no aerial, view. You couldn't see how big it went. They had no idea how far west it went. So Jefferson really wanted Lewis and Clark to go over there and just, like find some new crops and new things that can be grown, and what could we turn the industry of this country into. So they had to go there, and they had to like catalog all the new kinds of flowers that they saw, and fruits and vegetables and shit that was growing. And you know what one of the main requirements to be an adventurer back then was? This is crazy too. This is like something that you shouldn't have to do if you want to be Lewis and Clark or Marquette or Joliet or whoever. You know what you had to be? You had to be a world-class artist. You had to be a world-class sketch artist to be able to do that.
Crap.
Because they had to sketch everything, landscapes, and you couldn't just suck at it, right? Because these sketches were to be published in books that would educate the world about what you've discovered. So imagine that. It's like, yeah, I'm the best rock climber in the world. I'm the best Indian fighter in the world. But can you draw?
What
No.
can you do with charcoal? Yeah.
Yes. How are you with paintbrush? So I don't know. I fell into a Louisiana Purchase wiki hole today.
I thought you
And,
were gonna go into I found the real history of the Louisiana Purchase after living there for 16 years and having to talk about this day in history. So like there was a time when it seemed like no one really wanted it. So
no.
like the French had it, and then there was a French Revolution. They literally looked down at Spain. They're like, "Can you just hold on to this for about, I don't know, 13, 18 years or so, just whenever we get our shit back together?"
Uh,
And they finally did sort of get a little too much back together under Napoleon. And he's like, "No, no, we're taking this back now." And it's really weird because the French Quarter in New Orleans, it burned down when the Spanish were in possession of it. And it was never really it technically it was owned by Spain. It was a Spanish city, but it was still all French. And it burned down. The original French Quarter burned down except for just a couple buildings. And so they rebuilt it in 1783 in that little window of time when it was still under Spanish rule. And then they had to turn it back over. So the architecture, that's why it's just so wacky there. Like it doesn't look like it. Like when you go to the French Quarter and look around, you're like, oh, this looks like a European village. Not really. Not really.
do you know why? Because you're right. Napoleon didn't like the Brits, and Napoleon was sort of looking at the New World as a place to fight a proxy war against the Brits because they're tired of tearing up each other's towns. And so Napoleon was really tempted to come and invade America, or not invade America, but establish troop positions in French cities and all of that in the Louisiana Territory. But you know what happened? You know why he sold it to Jefferson for 15 million, which is like bargain basement?
Because he had to go to war against
Haiti.
Austria and oh yeah, there
It
was
was Haiti.
the Haitian
It
rebellion.
was the Santo Domingo
Hey,
uprising, the slave uprising, and Napoleon had all of his Caribbean money there, like all of his gold that all of his, people and the slaves rose up and took all of his gold, and Napoleon was like, I can't afford to invade America now. So that's why Napoleon sold for 15 million. He was short on cash. He couldn't fund his wars in Europe because all the gold was stolen by the slaves in Haiti. And so he figured he needed quick cash, and he offered Jefferson 15 million for the Louisiana Purchase, which is still to this day probably the greatest one-sided and biggest real estate deal ever enacted. Napoleon
yeah,
and Thomas Jefferson, the Louisiana Purchase.
yeah, that and Alaska. Alaska's gargantuan and it's comparable size. And just we just bought that.
Yeah,
That's amazing. What else can we buy? Like,
yeah,
can
but
we?
the Louisiana Purchase opened up the West and provide 20 states. There are 20
Oh,
states that are at
sure.
least touched by the Louisiana. I mean, that's a lot of Americans. That's a big part of us. Alaska, we don't know what we're doing with Alaska. It's
Oil,
nice.
got some oil, got some elk.
Do you know what Alaska is? Alaska is that dream car, like when you're like 45, 50 years old and your kids are moving out and you need a little hobby. So you go and you buy a junked up version of the first car you had in high school and you have every intention of restoring it, but it just sits there like on the side of your garage, not even in your garage, like on the side of your garage, covered in a tarp. And it's there that's Alaska. That's what America was thinking with Alaska. A fixer upper. We never got around to it.
Well, I'm digging the oil. So, what do you know about this uh four-way murder that's changed since last we talked about it?
Uh, yeah. Okay, so let's get into the Idaho thing. The father of Kaylee Goncalves is talking, and rightfully so. They've been quiet. All the parents of these victims, these four, if you're unfamiliar, over a month ago now, four college students at the University of Idaho. You got your Madison Mogan, you got your Kaylee Goncalves, you got your Zaina Kernoodle, and you got your Evan Chapin. I think Evan, is it Evan? I'm not sure. Whatever. My apologies. Uh, 21 and 20 years old, all of them. They went to sleep in their campus rental house and woke up in the morning dead, slaughtered. Four students, four fantastic, young, good grades, smart, attractive, popular, the future, sky's the limit kids, slaughtered in their bed. This is over a month ago in a very small town in Moscow, Idaho, called Moscow, Idaho, at the University of Idaho. And the police have no freaking clue. We're looking for a Hyundai. We're looking for a white Hyundai that somebody saw in the neighborhood a month ago. It's like you don't get any colder leads than that. And the parents, God bless them, of these victims have been very well behaved, and they've been taking the advice of just let the authorities do their job, let the authorities do their job. And Kaylee Conclave's father, Stephen, is now talking out, and he's pissed and he's blowing his stack. And he's like, there are so many people that need to be talked to. Nobody's been talked to. And he's also revealing some details that I think we all imagined in our darkest moments, but didn't really have confirmation of. Well, he talked about the coroner's report, and he talked about one of the things that he wants the police more information on is why his daughter, Kaylee Conclaves, seems to have been the one that was most viciously murdered. And by viciously murdered, they described what happened to her. She wasn't stabbed. She was basically sliced in half by what they believe is a machete or some kind of a sword. She was gutted from
Now,
between her.
is this the one that had the stalker?
This is the one that had the stalker and the one that had made 7 phone calls in 45 minutes to her boyfriend that she just broke up with. Okay.
Okay.
This is, remember her. And then, so she and her friend Madison, they're best friends for life. They fall asleep in the same bed in the bedroom, probably girl talking, waiting for the boy to call back. You know, they're drunk because they've been out partying all day. It was a Saturday, college football Saturday in a college football town. She was, as described by the coroner to the father, she was much more brutalized in this, seeming to suggest that she was the target, and everybody else just got in her way. Her friend Madison was also killed. She was also gutted, but there didn't seem to be. I don't have the story in front of me, so I don't want to be grotesque, but suffice it to say that one of the girls, the guy seemed to be really getting off on chopping up one of the girls as opposed to the other. Okay. And so that's, the father is like, why was that my daughter? Why won't the police tell me? Why does everything point to her being the center of this attack? The other two people who were killed were lovers, young lovers. That was Anna Kernodle and Evan Chapin, Ben Chapin. I don't know. I'm so sorry. They were in their beds sleeping, and they believe that they were killed possibly second because they didn't have the same kind of wounds as the other two. They had defensive wounds. Like they were,
But they were awake when he started.
they fought. There were wounds that the police say that these two fought back. So maybe they heard what had been happening, but they were also killed in their bed. Everybody was killed. So I don't know. It's very, it's fascinating. It is it has totally gripped me. And maybe it's because I'm Christmas, I don't know. Everybody else is lost in Christmas, and I'm sitting here watching news reports about these 4 dead kids.
All right. Yeah. So a jaded guy, some jealous guy, some pissed off guy comes in there. He starts hacking up the girl. The other girl wakes up, so he hacks her to sleep, or hacks her, and then he goes back to hacking this other girl. And then I imagine a couple of the roommates are like, what was her name? Kaylee, or what were their names?
Kaylee and Madison were killed together, and then
what is that? Madison, what's that noise? Madison. And so he has to come down the hall and take care of these guys because he can't leave any witnesses. And so he goes down there, and they don't get out of bed. I mean, look, they've been drinking all day. It's whatever time in the morning. Madison, what is that? Stop making all that noise. Go to bed. Go to bed. You know.
Yeah, you guys shut up. Right?
That's do we all agree that's probably the most likely scenario?
I don't know, dude. I mean, I've been reading everything, and I don't know what the most likely scenario is. This really is a mystery, but it's also a mystery because there is so little information when you compare this story to other stories that are similar that have unfolded. The Natalie Patino thing, there were new pieces of information. What did I say, Natalie? Gabby Patino. There were new pieces of information almost every day. There were new things there was at least movement. We were watching the investigation unfold before. We're not seeing that here. We're just seeing, it's Christmas time. Everybody's safe. Meanwhile, possibly still in the area, there's some dude walking around who killed 4 people brutally. Like, just walking around. Is he gonna, maybe he kills once a month at the same time? You know what I mean? I mean, that's what the people of the small town are thinking. They're like, what the hell?
Yeah, and the reason why this is such a compelling story is because we all know this is going to happen in every human society. There's just a certain percentage of people that are not just sociopaths, they are psychopaths. And not all of them act out in such a manner, but a small percentage of them are going to go on some sort of horrific, barbaric, animalistic killing spree. This is not a person who feels the same human connection. They are not incapable of empathy or
That's the
remorse.
monster. We've got monsters. We've got people who are humans. We've got broken humans, and we've got monsters. I don't even classify a person who could do this as ever having been human.
So you can say, well, we need to find these people and lock them up. Well, you can't lock them up until they break the law. So you got to wait till they hack people to death before you lock them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, that's the ugly lesson. And nobody likes that. I don't like that. That's not my preference.
Are you suggesting we engage in some thought policing? Because that's the only way to stop it.
No. This is the less of the two bad options, but this is a sucky option. I get it. This sucks. We have to wait for them to hack somebody to death before they go to jail. Yeah, sucks, doesn't it?
Here, I found the story. The father of slain University of Idaho student Kaylee Conclaves told Fox News Digital that the victim had big open gouges that were clearly the work of a sadistic male and called police cowards for not sharing more information about the murders with the public. This is the father of one of the victims. He's done being good. He's done sitting. I can't blame him. I can't believe he sat here for 4 weeks. That's Stephen Conclaves said he asked the coroner, Kathy Maybutt, how many times the victims were stabbed. She responded, she says, "Sir, I don't think stabs is the right word. It was more like tears. Like this was a strong weapon. This wasn't a stab." That's what the coroner described as. So like tears, like a sword or like a machete. Not so much like stabby. She said these were big open gouges. She said it was quick. These weren't something that you were going to be able to call 911 or bleed out for a while with. So that's good, right? She said these were instant death, like
minimal suffering. Good.
He just cut your heart in half, and boom, you're gone immediately. She said these were big open gouges. She said it was quick. Blah blah blah. Let's see here. Kaylee Conclaves, 21. Her best friend Madison Mogan, 21. Xana Carnoodle, 20, and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, 20, were slaughtered in the early hours of November 13th in a rental home near. It's going to be 1 month tomorrow. 1 whole month, and nobody knows nothing. Moscow police, working with the FBI and Idaho State Police, have yet to publicly name a suspect or recover the fixed blade knife they believe was used in the horrific attack. Conclave said his daughter's injuries definitely did not match Mogan's wounds. So the two girls, that's Conclaves and Mogan, one of their wounds didn't match the others. They may have individually died from the exact same thing being stabbed, but there are more details, he added. They're not even close to matching. This knife slashed open Kaylee. It slashed open her liver and her lungs, he said. He's talking about his daughter. Could you imagine the grieving father paid for a copy? Pop-ups. Gotta sell. The grieving father paid for a copy of his daughter's death certificate, which included some of the details of her injuries, but he doesn't know whether his daughter or Mogan were the targets. I have my own suspicions that he's not sharing. His daughter and Mogan were ambushed in their sleep and found in the same bed. Conclave surmised that they died in Mogan's bedroom on the 3rd floor because there are photos of Kaylee's room with no blood on the bed. All right. So anyway, there's nothing new other than that, other than the father is starting to complain and scream and yell, and I'm right there with him because I can't believe that there has been nothing. What are you gonna do?
All right. Tell you what's wild is living in New Orleans. There's a ton of murders, and most of them don't make big news. You find out, hey, like 6 people died this week. Really, I didn't hear about any of them. But a few of them are a little more high profile. Some of the more shocking ones. And you do follow-ups if you work in a market that long, you do follow-ups on these weird stories, and you find a shocking amount of them never get solved, and they never come back up in the news because there's no new evidence, no new reason to bring it back up. And so I've gotten used to looking up some of these statistics. If you look for the last 5 years, we have data on murders. Now, you can't look at murders for 2022. Of course, they're not solved yet. Hell, it takes longer than that to bring them to trial. So they stopped the statistics at 2019. If you take the last 5 years, so 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, and you average it out, the percent of those murders that is solved is 58%. So more than 40% of murders have gone unsolved in the last 5 years. And that's about par for the course.
That doesn't jive with what I see on TV. On TV, right? It seems like everybody gets caught.
in
It
20
doesn't.
minutes. Yeah,
Yeah.
an
I'll
hour
tell
at
you,
the most.
TV lies to us about a lot of stuff. There's a lot of shit we see on TV.
Yeah, it's amazing because you would think, in modern times with all the technology we have, more than just fingerprint. Hell, we got DNA, we got surveillance cameras every year. If you look at the oldest 5 years that they have statistics for, 1965 to 1970, the percent solved rate is 81%.
81% of murders solved since 1980.
No, no, no.
20%.
Go ahead.
No, go. You finish it.
I was saying, according to my chart here, for if you do 1965 to 1970, it's 81% solved. And then if you do the last 5 years, it was, what was that?
Well, yeah, but that's because they just used to pin it on the nearest black guy. That was, I mean, they used to
Oh, is
solve
that what
all
they
the
were
cases.
doing in
Yeah, because back in the
1970?
60s, they just railroaded people. There was
Yeah,
no
you don't want to find the guy that killed your wife. Just
no.
blame it on some random guy because he's
Close
hungry.
the cases, James. We've got an election coming up. This
I,
sheriff needs to get reelected.
I don't think
Close
that's
the
what our
cases.
parents were doing. I don't think.
Oh. All right. Hey, you got anything? I got something we can jump in on. There's big breaking news happening right now.
Oh, please do tell.
Not big breaking news. I mean, honestly, it apparently is big breaking news. It's not big breaking news in my world because I don't know what any of this stuff means. But the FBI has arrested, or is it have arrested? The FBI have arrested Sam Bankman-Fried of FTX. They caught him in the Bahamas. Now this is, of course, the 30-year-old whiz kid of cryptocurrency who started the crypto trading board FTX, which I'd never heard of until the Super Bowl last year, which makes sense because it's only been around for like 18 months. It was not like this legacy thing that had been around forever. So you might remember FTX. It was they did the commercials with Larry David at the Super Bowl where it was throughout time depictions of throughout time people pitching
Oh
Larry.
yeah.
Like, it was like caveman Larry David, and a dude was pitching him the wheel. And Larry David's like, it'll never work. And then it's like, whatever, throughout time, right? And they get to the modern time, and it's a dude pitching Larry David on cryptocurrency and FTX, and he goes, it'll never work. And then the tagline for the ad was, don't be like Larry. Invest in FTX. Well, Larry was right. It turns out that the joke of that commercial was that Larry was right to say no, that it'll never work.
Well, that's a fun irony.
Yeah, but
I
all of
like
these
that. That's great.
all of these celebrities who did these endorsements for FTX, Tom Brady is one, Larry David is one, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank is another. They're all being sued now for not for being an ambassador without doing their due diligence.
What ridiculous.
Now, do you know what this is? Do you know what FTX is? I don't even know.
Okay, so here's my understanding of the situation. This guy had both a cryptocurrency exchange and a hedge fund.
Yeah.
And he created out of thin air a bunch of his cryptocurrency, uses collateral for his hedge fund to borrow some real money from some real hedge funds, and then farted it all away.
Yeah, that's all stuff that I read today. I don't know what any of that means. That's the problem. I know the words. I recognize the words. I just don't know what they mean when they're pressed together.
Oh, okay.
I don't get it. So yeah, where it really fell to shit, which by the way, if you're interested in how quickly this happened, James, wrap your mind around this, how quickly it happened. In September of this year, Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX was one of the emergency bailout companies that Elon Musk was looking to turn to buy Twitter. So as of September of this year, they were still solvent and they were still a big baller, and they were looking to give Elon Musk like $10 billion, towards the Twitter purchase. So that's how quickly it happened. And in the way that it happened, and again, I don't understand what happened, but I'm going to walk you through how it's being explained. What happened is there is a competing, this is like a stock market for cryptocurrency. If you think of how the Dow Jones works, it's a place where people are allowed to trade tokens, right? Like in whatever, I don't know, whatever. It's for crypto people. It's a place where crypto people invested and bought things. And so there's a competing one of these, Binance, which is another big one. And that's, I think, the original. That's out of China, maybe. And Binance bought uh, a whole bunch of the um, FTX, FTTs, FT, whatever these tokens are, the tokens that represent pretend money that the whole house of cards is built on.
It,
I don't know. Whatever.
this is his version of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
He's pretending like he created a whole currency like Bitcoin, and then he used his pretend currency to as collateral to borrow real money. Is that the do I have that part right?
Well, that's what they found out after what happened that I'm describing right now. So this Chinese billionaire who owns the binary, he coin something, which is a cryptocurrency newsletter. It's apparently read by all the crypto bros, right? They put out a story in early November about how Bankman Fried had sort of a little Ponzi thing going on with his own companies. He was buying companies based on the supposed worth of FTX and then using those companies as collateral for loans that FTX was taking. So it was like this crazy, like there was no actual money. It was all just, well, this company is probably worth this. So we'll give you this much of what this company is probably worth. And then, but it's not really worth anything. This is all just speculation. So when they issued the story about how he was sort of intermarrying the funds of two of his companies to prop one another up, the Chinese guy who runs Binary announced that he was selling all of everything that all of the FTTs that he has in FTX. That caused their market to fall, right? And then there was a run. There was a run on the people who had money in FTX and they couldn't pay. It was a run, basically an old fashioned run on the bank. And they didn't have any money to pay everybody. And so the next day they declared bankruptcy and Sam Bankman Fried was in the wind. They indicted him and he was in the wind. They believed that he was somewhere in the Caribbean. The Bahamas and the Grenadines is where his company is based out of. So, and tonight they arrested this 30-year-old Stanford/MIT super genius. It's another like Elizabeth Holmes thing. You know, these young millennials, they feel so entitled and unstoppable because of the way they were raised by the helicopter parents and the orange slices after soccer practice. You know, all those pussy things. They can't imagine that they'd actually have to truly invent something to make a lot of money. And
Isn't it fun to watch though? Because I feel like the same way I feel about the Fire Festival is number one, the only people that
Billy
got hurt were
he's another
a-holes
one.
that deserve to get parted from their money to begin with if they fell for this dumb crap, you know, because that's how I felt about watching the Fire Festival. And at the front of it is just some douchey looking white guy who knows how to talk to a boardroom full of old men who think that he's the next cool relevant thing and he's going to make them a lot of money in this thing that they don't understand.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that, like, you know, we used to see around Dallas, 24 years old in bottle service, and you're like, how the hell are you affording this?
Yes, I love those guys.
You are king of the douche. Yes, I will drink your vodka, but I have questions about how you're paying for all this.
Yeah, and really, Belvedere's not that nice of a vodka.
No, and you're paying 5 times price for bottle service. So that's what's going on with Sam Bankman Fried. I jumped into his Wikipedia page. I feel like I know a whole lot about him as well. He's a pretty impressive young man, but I think he was worth something like $70 billion when he woke up in the morning. And by like 7 p.m., and this is like November the 15th of this year, he was worth like 70 billion when he woke up in the morning. And by like 6 p.m., he was worth nothing. Nothing. Now, here's my question for you, James. So he was worth nothing, but I mean, him being worth nothing and you and I being worth nothing, if you and I were worth nothing, that would mean we're really worth nothing. The house is gone, the bank accounts are empty, and honestly, we're asking our parents for $100 for food for the next couple of days. That's what it means when a regular person has nothing. This MFer supposedly lost everything and then went into debt billions of dollars and still had somehow enough cash lying around that he could go into the wind in the Caribbean for a month, for like 2 months, staying in the most expensive hotels. I guess they didn't turn off his credit cards? Maybe his credit cards were still working? I don't know. I have no idea. So I guess how much do you think if you were worth $70 billion, James? And how would you do this? you would prepare for, you would have a rainy day bag, right? You would have, because you know that if you're worth $70 billion and it's on paper and it's all this like sketchy kind of on paper thing that could go away like that, wouldn't you over the course of time like just be
Dash.
bungling cash or gold bars or something? Like so.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you were worth 70 billion and you knew that there was a possibility that you could go Sam Bankman Fried, how much do you think you would bunghole away? How much would you need? 70
Well,
billion. Remember, that's your starting point.
well,
And how would you do it?
the smart way, I mean, it's kind of hard and kind of smart at the same time, is the gold. Now you can't go buy actual literal bars that they have at Fort Knox or whatever. All those have serial numbers and are totally trackable. And if you have a whole bunch of on the register gold bars, then the IRS will come back, or whoever comes back and sees them when all the court stuff comes back, and he owes more to the creditors than he has in assets. They're going to liquidate all his assets, and if that gold shows up on paper, it'll be found and be part of it. So you can't do anything that's a traceable gold. So you probably need to get black market gold, which is a thing, and just start piling that up and just
How
make
about
sure.
diamonds? Do diamonds go up in price? I know the gold is interesting because there's such
Same
a
thing.
fluctuation in its worth from moment to moment, and it's
Yeah.
always worth something. But it could be $400 an ounce, and then the next day it could be $1,200 an ounce.
Right, but you can't buy it through a reputable jewels dealer, because they'll go through and they'll be like, "Hey, on your debit card, there's a $30,000 jewelry purchase here. What
How
is
much
this?"
cash? How much in gold bars? So I mean, look, we're at $70 billion. We have friends who are Russian oligarchs. Okay, getting black market gold is not going to be a problem for us. So let's just, how much in black market gold do you need? 70 billion.
70 bill. Black market gold.
That's 70 billion. You're building a rainy day fund so that if you need to disappear because this all goes tits up, you can go live the rest of your life. How much are you taking?
Man, you could easily stash about 50 million.
Yeah. I would think that would be a good amount. Although you'd still live ostentatiously on 50 million. That's
No,
big wealth. That's
yeah, but the thing is how do you launder it?
Here's what I'm thinking. See, this
Yeah.
is what I'm thinking. I'm Sam Bankman Fried. See, I think he's too young and he still was feeding his ego and he thought that he could come back from this. If I was this guy and I'm like, yep, I got to disappear forever and like quick, right? No intention of ever coming back. Plastic surgery, whatever I got to do. I'm getting out of there. I'm thinking like if it was quick, I could have like a duffel bag. Could you have a duffel bag with $10 million? Or is that you'd have to be a really big duffel bag? Maybe a hockey bag. I'm thinking $10 million would be in like a wall safe in my house behind like a false wall or something. Nobody would know it's there. Only I would know it's there. It's a duffel bag. And if I need to just get out, I'll just grab the duffel bag and I will go. And I'm thinking, maybe 10 million, 10 million. Here's all I need. Give me a condo in like Marina Del Rey. Yeah, let me go down to CarMax and get like a $50,000 BMW. I don't need a lot. Just let me
You
live.
have to leave the country. You have to leave the country.
Oh no, I'm talking about blending back in. I ain't leaving the country. I don't want to leave the country unless I'm going to Ireland or something. I'll go to Ireland, but I don't want to leave the country. I want to blend in. I just want to disappear. I want new identity, and you can do that if you have that kind of money. You can get new identity, and you can. I've seen, or at least according to TV, you can. I don't even know if that's as easy as they make it on TV. You know what I mean? People on TV always seem to be able to get new passports and birth certificates.
Yeah, well, every cook in every restaurant in a 20-mile radius of you managed to get a fake ID that works.
No, I mean a good one though. And those guys got some sketchy things. Then the pop. You run the numbers, the pop with. I need stuff that's clean. I need
You're gonna do what Saul Goodman did at the end of Breaking Bad. You're just
exactly.
gonna go to Omaha, Nebraska, and be the assistant manager in a Cinnabon.
Yeah, and I'll go visit the guy at the vacuum cleaner repair shop, right? And he'll give me all my new IDs and all of that shit. Yeah, that'd be great. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna disappear. No, but not like Saul. Saul didn't take enough money if he's managing a Cinnabon. No, I'm talking about I don't want to have a job. A condo, just a 2-bedroom condo. Yeah, maybe like a $300,000 condo, a nice decent car.
Yeah, but you go to like the Yucatan Peninsula, you go to like Progreso or Cancun or something. You can
I
get a
won't
nice
go there. I'll
one.
visit there with my fake IDs. Because I don't speak the language and I'm an American and I want to stay here.
Oh, plenty of people speak English there. You'll pick up Spanish in a few months. It'll be part of the fun.
That way's too easy. I want a little bit of drama. I want a little bit of Whitey Bulger action where at any minute they
Over
could
your
be coming
shoulder.
for me.
Yeah.
You know?
All right, at least make it Ireland then.
Yeah, I can go live on like the Ring of Kerry. Like I just build a house out there just on the ocean. That'd be awesome. Right next to Elton John. They got an area there in Ireland, the Ring of Kerry, which they call the Shanty Riviera, because it's like Lady Di had a house there, and like Elton John has a house there, and it's like all of these like big Oprah's got a big estate there. Anyway, I'd go there.
Is it out of bounds to talk about sports?
No, let's go. What do you got? You're up.
All right, so this is twice 2 weeks in a row where the Cowboys were just sucking until the very end of the game. This is the same formula that they had previously followed against the Colts, and they just did it again against the Texans, two stink teams, and they were playing stink ball with them for most of the game, and then they just pulled their head out of their butt in the last quarter. That doesn't bode well for their chances. Now, they're going to make the playoffs, but this is not the kind of fortitude you see that just steamrolls your way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they acquired T.Y. Hilton tonight. That was good.
That's
definitely
good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I honestly, I don't know how relevant he's been in the last couple of years, but certainly he's a good, proven veteran receiver. I'll tell you, I'm not supposed to talk about this, but I don't care. My kid, man, 13-year-old Dallas Cowboy meathead. He loves this team so much, and he can't. He said he can't handle this, man. I'm talking to him. I'm like, dude, you need to talk to some 50-year-old Cowboy fans. They can walk you through this, because this is going to happen to you all the time. First quarter, when the Cowboys were down in the first quarter, he's screaming at the TV, and he's legitimately freaking out in the first quarter. And the whole game, I'm like, don't worry about it. They're going to pull it out in the end. He's like, no, you don't know that. And I'm like, oh my God. It was gut-wrenching for this little guy. And I'm watching him. I'm going, oh, dude, you are a Cowboy fan. This has been happening to you folk for 25 years now. It's going to change someday. And maybe you've timed it right, where suddenly they'll win another Super Bowl and you'll be a young man and it'll be a great childhood memory for you. But I could introduce you to some lifelong Cowboy fans who will talk you off that ledge, little man, because he was not handling it well. Hey, have I ever told you my theory on why I think the Cowboys tend to underperform against bad teams?
Yeah, I haven't heard the theory, but I'm always skeptical of these because, you can't – it's not the same guys that were playing 5 years ago and 10 years ago and 20 years ago.
All right, no, that's fair. So let me explain, because I don't think that has any influence at all on what my theory is. Cool. The Dallas Cowboys are a special team. The Dallas Cowboys in the makeup of the NFL are a special team. They are America's team. They are somehow, for some inscrutable reason, they are high profile. They're from a city that you really wouldn't think would produce like the most high profile football team. I mean, why? I don't know. Well, I'll tell you, because they were brilliant at marketing in the 1970s. Tex Schramm and all that stuff with the Cowboy cheerleaders, and it became America's team. In this town, the Cowboy fan, and I know, well, actually, you would be a good, because you lived in New Orleans, so you knew the New Orleans fan. So you can compare the average Cowboy fan to the average New Orleans fan. And I can compare it to the Bears fan. And, in this town, for some reason, the Dallas Cowboys every year coming out of training camp are deified as gods by the average person in this town. I have never seen anything like this. My partner Kelly dated a third-string lineman, and we would go out to bars and clubs, and people would flock around him because he was a Dallas Cowboy. I've never seen you didn't see that in Chicago. Unless you were like a superstar, they didn't give a shit about you. They were probably pissed at you because you were underperforming or whatever. But in this town, the fans make the Dallas Cowboys feel like they have already won the Super Bowl coming out of training camp, and it gets in these guys' fucking heads. They're treated like rock stars everywhere they go. They go to like a barbecue joint in Irving and everybody stands up and applauds. It's the special teams for the cow. This fucks with your head, man. And I don't know how hungry it makes you. I don't know, a team like a team where the fans don't treat them like they've won. You know what I mean? I mean, there's fans of this team in this town, and the media does too. The media only, until recently, the last couple of years, this media has been sucking the balls of the Dallas Cowboys in a way that when I first moved here, I was blown away by the way local sports media talked about the Cowboys. About they kid gloves. And I moved here when Quincy Carter was the quarterback, and they were terrible.
Yikes.
And they were handled with kid gloves.
Yikes.
So I've always believed
Right.
that it's the Dallas Cowboy fan who has done this to the Dallas Cowboy team year in and year out. Doesn't matter if it's a new player or not, because the new player suddenly gets off the bus and he's like, wow, I'm being treated like a superstar.
Okay,
They don't
so
get that in Cleveland. They
all
don't
right.
get that in Cincinnati or Green
So what
Bay.
we're looking for is a control group. So what other franchises probably share this trait? I would say Green Bay, those guys, wherever they go
No,
down, they're not treated as absolute gods anywhere they go in Green. That's not the biggest thing going on in Green Bay because
it is, but it's different because they don't live there. That's the unfortunate reality of the Green Bay Packers. They
that's
stay in hotels and they all live in Chicago or Milwaukee. They don't live in Green Bay. They live 200 miles away, and they for practice they stay in hotel suites, that kind of thing. So
so
it's not the same. They're
in
not.
New Orleans, they are deified like that. Everywhere they go,
Yeah.
even if you have the third string, the guy who holds the field goals, uh, yeah, they're deified too. But they also share the trait in Dallas in the fact that they play down for crappy teams. They lay random eggs when totally they deserve to win a game.
I would push back a little on your New Orleans thing, because I think that your time in New Orleans coincides with a very special time in that franchise's history. It was after Katrina. It was when they were forced to play a season away. They won the Super Bowl, and it was in that moment that they sort of became deified. But I can't imagine the New Orleans Saints were deified to the extent that you've just described in 1979 when Archie Manning was their quarterback. It seems like they became America's favorite team after
Well,
Katrina.
it's
So a little different.
it's much different than Dallas because New Orleans is about 1/4, maybe even 1/5 the size, the whole metroplex.
Mhm.
It's about 1.2 million people, and Dallas is like 6 million people.
Yeah.
And the Pelicans have never got a toehold. So that is the only thing going on. That is the biggest thing by a country mile going on. And you're right. I moved there right after Katrina. Me and Drew Brees at the same time. Me and Sean Payton got there at the same time. We left at the same time. It's
That
pretty
was a
cool.
special time in that franchise's history.
And
That
then
is,
me and Sean had to leave, and it's over. But
it was a sad time.
you could make a comparison to Buffalo. That's the only thing going on in Buffalo. That's the biggest thing going on in Buffalo.
No, they're nuts in Buffalo. Yeah, they are nuts in Buffalo. But see, here's the difference. That you're missing the point. So in Buffalo, if one of their players screws up, you can listen to Buffalo sports radio, and I have because of Amel. Because and you can these Buffalo fans are like, that guy sucks, get rid of him, I want him run out of town. The same situation in Dallas, and people are like, no, I love him, he's a Cowboy for life. They deify these guys. Chicago,
They don't
Chicago is
deify.
different because
They
we hate our team. The Chicago Bears take a beating on the street. They're despised essentially, except for a couple players. That was,
an interesting counterexample would be Houston, where their team is not treated like gods.
they don't care. Yeah.
I mean, half the people can't even name the starting quarterback, which is unheard of in Dallas.
Los
But
Angeles, they don't care. They got two teams. They got the Chargers and the Rams, and they just don't care.
well, it's different for Houston. They just want to care, but when you have a franchise that hasn't ever even made it to a Super Bowl in its entire existence, in your entire lifetime of fandom, that's one of the most beaten down fan bases possible is the Houston Texans.
Here, I got four more teams. I'm going to give you four more teams where the media in these teams' towns are legendarily brutal on the teams. Okay, unlike here in Dallas, where everybody seems to suck
Well, in
Jerry's
Houston, I forgot to add, in Houston, they're pretty rough on the Texans.
balls. Yeah. New York Jets
True.
and the Giants. Those teams get the shit kicked out of them all the time. New England Patriots, the Boston media and the Boston fan base. This team has given them like a dozen Super Bowls, and they are still looking to run Mac Jones out of town because the backup threw a couple of nice passes a couple of weeks ago. It's crazy. Also, I would say Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is like that. Pittsburgh fans do not suffer when the fools of the Steelers when the shit ain't going right.
Oh, good.
Who's another team though that seems to truly love everything about them? Seattle fans seem pretty happy. Seahawk fans seem pretty crazy. They got that whole, we're the 13th man or 12th man or what, you know what I mean? That whole
Ripping off the Aggies.
yeah. I don't know. Anyway, Here's what I think about the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are really good, but I don't think the Cowboys are as hungry as other teams. And I don't think they're as hungry as other teams because they get treated like gods in October.
I hear you on that one. I hear you. That might play into it. And you're right. That wouldn't be like personnel dependent. That would be across time and space.
Yeah, it's just the entire vibe of when you put that Cowboy uniform on and how people treat you in this town.
That is unfortunate. So, anything else strike your eye from this weekend in football?
Anything strike my eye? No, but something from about 2 hours ago. Did you see what happened to Kyler Murray?
No, what happened to Kyler Murray? Oh, he
Oh,
got carted off the field.
good Lord. Yeah, it looks like an ACL. He done. He
Yeah.
gone. Hope they get Josh Rosen on the phone. Did you remember they drafted Josh Rosen like in the first round? He was going to be the quarterback of their future, and then a year later they sucked again, and they had a top pick the next year, and they picked Kyler Murray. And the like first round, they drafted a guy high. You know, you draft like a quarterback in the first round, high up. He's supposed to be the guy of the future. You waste that pick on him. They could have had a defensive end. You know, they could have had a linebacker or something, but they took Josh Rosen in the very next year. Kyler Murray, you're gone, Josh. Maybe Josh Rosen's still around. I don't know. Mike Leach, did you follow this story? Yeah, Mike Leach, head coach, Mississippi State, former Texas Tech head coach, winningest coach in the history of Texas Tech. Are
I
you
definitely know
following?
the name, yeah,
Yeah,
but I
are you
don't know the
following the
story.
Mike Leach story?
No.
Okay, so last night, Mike Leach in his home there in Mississippi, getting ready for the big bowl game. I don't know what bowl they're in, but I know Mississippi State is playing the Illini. Massive heart attack to the point where, he's 59, I think it said it was. Ah, he, when people have heart attacks, a lot of times they're like, yo, he's in good condition. He's on a, no, he's never regained consciousness. He's still out. They say that it took like 20 minutes for EMS to get there. And in the 20 minutes, he started to have epileptic seizures in addition to the heart attack. And that caused his brain to starve. So he's got severe brain damage. I mean, this is a real tragedy. This is like, he's at the air raid. He's
How old
famous.
are you?
What's that?
How old are you?
How old am I? 53.
Yeah. See, this is wife and I just watched the first episode of the new Sex and the City reboot, or not reboot, but sequel, whatever the hell. And in the first episode, Mr. Big, spoiler alert, has a heart attack and dies, and he's 58. And me and my wife are like, man, everyone in the show looks so damn old, and they're only like a few years older than us.
Yeah.
Sucks, man. And so we were just lamenting on how old and feeble all these people look and how they're not really that much older than we are. And then the dude has a heart attack and dies. We're like, oh, this sucks. This sucks. Is this what age we are now, where people our
Yeah.
age get heart attacks and that's it?
I have two friends who are younger than I am right now, and they're dead from heart attacks, just dropping dead from heart attacks. Well, anyway, here's the wrap up not the ramp up, the wrap up. So earlier this afternoon, Mike Leach RIP was trending. Mike Leach, rest in peace. Right. So everybody's like, oh, it happened. He died. Nobody expected him to survive. All of the other coaches in major college football have been tweeting things that would make you think that he's not getting better. You know what I mean? Like when friends of the victim start saying things like, you know what I mean? You can tell by the tone. They weren't hopeful. His close friends in the coaching community who were tweeting with their blue checks and all that were not saying hopeful things. So it looked really bad. So rest in peace, Mike Leach was trending today, and it was just a troll trend. He's not dead. Somebody just thought this will be a good opportunity for me to get clicks and shares. And they got rest in peace. And every single post on there was, he's not dead, you ghoul. You are a piece of shit. You know, it's like all of this. But the update on it is that he has not gained consciousness, and Mike Leach has been moved to hospice care. 20 hours now after the heart attack. That means he's expected to pass away. That means hospice care is get him comfortable. There's nothing we can do for him. He has severe brain damage. I mean, he was not an old man. Like, he was a young man with a lot of years left. He's a 3-time coach of the year.
I always thought a good name for a hospice clinic would be Hotel California. Step in anytime you like. You can
That's
never
good.
leave.
You get them all. You get them all. You get the money, you get the applause, and you get the rim shot. All right, there you go.
Can I leave you with a soundbite here?
Yeah, whatever.
Oh man, is RG3 in trouble for this? Because I know if I said it, see the share screen over there.
What did he do? All right.
Well,
Gotcha.
it's what did he say? And it's not very nice. It's here. I think I should full screen it. Right there we go.
Against a team like San Francisco or maybe Dallas or whoever it is that they come across, right?
Yeah, but that's why they brought in Linval Joseph and brought in Ndamukong Suh. Like, the Eagles just keep leveling up, in my opinion. I think they're your favorite team's favorite team. People said that Jalen Hurts couldn't get it done. He couldn't operate from the pocket. He's not the quarterback of the future. I think he proved all those jigaboos wrong.
No, he's fine. He's fine. Because it's a black racial slur, and it's not like he's now. If he was a 78-year-old former SEC coach, yeah, he'd be in a lot of trouble. But yeah, I don't think so. But I flinched. Did you see my natural reaction? I was like, ooh. But then I'm like, no, yeah, he can say that. I'll give you an example of why that's okay. Dr. Robert Schwartz made a Holocaust joke yesterday in a commercial break when we were all sitting around, and it was very ugly.
He is Jewish.
And he said, I can say that. My name is Schwartz. Yeah. There you go. We're like, okay. And he's like, you can't say that. You can't say that. I can. Yeah, that's pretty clumsy. Has he issued a response to that or any kind of apologize, claiming that he didn't know the etymology?
I don't have a follow-up to that, but the cultural question mark comes in because RG3 is, I mean, clearly he's African American. He's a black guy, but functionally speaking, he's white. Like, if we really did the Dave Chappelle show racial draft, the whites would have gotten him in the one of the first 3 rounds for sure.
Why do you say that? What makes you say that?
He's just on our team. He's one of us.
He's okay. All right. No, I'm genuinely innocently asking because I'm not all that familiar with RG3. Honestly, I know he played at Baylor, won a Heisman, and then got hurt.
Well, it's one of these things, like, you kind of understand how Eminem would get drafted by the black team in the Dave Chappelle show racial draft, because RG3 he grew up in a Baptist religious home, and I think he was like homeschooled even, and then he went to college in Waco, which is not the blackest place in America.
You went to Baylor, a religious school. Baylor's a Christian university.
And he has a white person accent. He married a white person. He dresses like a white person. He probably drives a white person car. It's like something sensible.
All right, we're out of time. I would love to follow up with what is a white person car? What is a white accent? So many questions that we'll just leave on the back burner.
He's one of us. He's one of us.
Where can people find Florida Stories?
Wherever you already listen to the podcast, and it's also at Pug's mom's house.
All right, there you go. That was an insult aimed at me. That wasn't nice at all. See you tomorrow at noon for High Noon. High Noon, topics, headlines, current events, whatever it is that's happening in the world. I'll cover it, all of it. I'll give you a nice little cheat sheet for your day. Everything you need to know that people could come up to you and say, hey, did you hear about? I'll talk about it tomorrow at noon. High Noon. Cover all the topics of the day. What else? Oh, there is no Pillow Talk tomorrow. You know what? I should have done this with him. There is no Pillow Talk tomorrow night, and there is no Pillow Talk on Wednesday night. You know what? I do. I need to call him now because. My apologies. I hope I'm not interrupting him having sex with his wife.
So there's no Pillow Talk Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Bye. There he goes. Just bear with me, folks. We'll get back into normal. There we go. All right. Yeah, so no Pillow Talk tomorrow or Wednesday. But we will do a Pillow Talk on Thursday. But there will be no High Noon on Thursday. Oh, it's all so confusing. I'm sorry. Christmas hours, Christmas rules. There's all kinds of crazy things happening over the next few weeks. I will give you a heads up. I will give you a couple of day heads up when things pop on my social schedule. I don't have much of a social schedule. Christmas parties are pretty much all I get to go to. Pretty much it. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow at noon. High noon tomorrow right here on RadioMisfits.com and PugsCast.com.
Tomorrow is another day. The best is yet to come.